Thank you. I'm still in tears over that song and how the butterflies just mysteriously were a part of a message for you guys. I picked that song totally not knowing. So that's pretty much sums up my whole life. I have been somewhat intuitive my whole life, but it's really been growing ever since I started an energetic path about 15, 16 years ago. Just a little bit of background before I jump into the message. Um, I'm a vortex healer by training. Vortex healing is an esoteric path of awakening. It's very intensive. Um, it's based on the lineage of Merlin, who is a beautiful avataric force, a couple of thousand years old. And there's a couple of thousand of us around the world that practice this. There's about 7 or 8 teachers that teach this, and um, it's about a couple of thousand of hours of training in vortex healing and a couple of thousand of hours of practical experience working with clients one-on-one, as well as doing group healings and workshops throughout the country and the world. So I traveled before the lockdown offering these group healings in person, and I lived in Pennsylvania, so that's why I know the Circle of Miracles people. And after lockdown, of course, I stopped traveling and started doing these online groups, which I could always do. But because people don't necessarily understand the beautiful vibrational interconnections we all have through consciousness, we are consciousness, everything is consciousness. They preferred being in person. And if I lived in your area, I am talking to you from Wisconsin right now. If I lived in your area, we would definitely, it would be my privilege and pleasure to be doing this in person, but I don't have to. I never did. I would hold groups and just ask people to tune in, and their energetics would mold in this group field. If you haven't felt it, I've already created a group field previous to us starting so that we could go right into the meditation. It's really wonderful for me to talk about what I do, but like Reverend Elaine alluded to earlier, you kind of have to experience it. And you're welcome to go online and listen to my solstice, but I'm just really excited to be able to share something with you in person here today. And that's why I created a group field. So going back to the pandemic, I started doing these groups in person. And when I realized what was going on, I looked up at source because I'm divinely guided. My life over the course of many, many, many years has just been a progressive deep dive into releasing all that I don't know to become this agent of change that is offering transformational services to people. And it's not like Dr. Elaine said, or Reverend Elaine said, it's not for the weak and meek. It's clearing the deep patterns that prevent you from really living your peace. So it's beautiful and wonderful to want to bring in joy. It's beautiful and wonderful to want to clear your thoughts. It's beautiful and wonderful to want to really be in a place of harmony and create new visions. But if your body can't sustain it because it's holding patterns of not just this current life vibrational negativity and blocks, it's also dimensional. We have karmic history and we have our genetic history, intergenerational patterns that affect us that are really underlying in our subconscious and we don't even know about it. So I was called to offer these sessions because I looked at the world and I said, you guys are smart because the world is going through a giant transformation right now. That's why you guys are gathering. That's why everybody is gathering and having these beautiful inspirational meetings and doing what they can to really effort change. And so I went, oh, I just feel like everything I had been doing was funneled into this portion of time. But so then I started giving transformational sessions, and after listening for a while and working with a particular client that had a lot of trauma in her system, Source introduced to me a way that is a protocol to really approach trauma with so much grace, so much grace. I'll go into it in a little bit of detail in just a second. And I actually said, no way, because I'm like, who am I to offer trauma services to people? I don't have letters after my name. I'm not a doctorate. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And Source just sat back after I was going blah 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 about how much I don't want to be doing this trauma trauma-informed energetic group healing. And Source said very quietly, very assuredly, what makes you think you're doing any of it? And I'm like, oh, you got a point there. And so I, like the seed of sharing, that was a perfect quote. And to me, everything's interconnected. The way the song fit in, the way the quote fit in, the way Reverend Elaine's sharing just touched me and brought tears to my eyes. It's all divinely perfect. And so I sat back and said, of course I'm not doing it. I'm just listening and I'm providing space. And it grew from there. So that was March of 2021. So it's been a little over a year and a half that I've been offering these, what I call in beginning energetic transformational therapy. Because it really went deep to the root of our deepest fears in a way, again, that made you feel safe, made you feel embraced. But that wasn't even enough. It kept growing. The more I offered this service to my current clients and people coming in, it just grew into what I now call the Earthworker series, because it was really obvious that it wasn't enough just to offer trauma relief. It was, you needed to have an energetic body that could support it. I'm going to turn on my screen share for just a second. Here we go. We don't want that one. We don't want that one. You all know that we're vibrational beings. Okay. I don't want that one.
We're only seeing the multi-dimensional healing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if nothing's changing as you're saying.
Oh, okay, sorry. Well, you know what? I don't want to mess around. Oh, there we go. How about now? Can you see
the same?
Yeah. I'm not going to mess around with it because I just want to talk. So I'm going to stop my screen sharing. Because who cares about my logo? And I'm going way off script anyway, because this whole Roe versus Wade thing completely changed everything I had planned. And so we all need to surf with the times, including me. And that's what I found when I was offering these group healings. They morphed into something that became a series of 3 different offerings that I'm now calling the Earthworker series, that completely describe what we need to be that agent of change. So if you truly want to bring joy into the world, if you truly want to change your thoughts, if you truly want to let go of that ego control, because the ego control is based off of fear, you have to deal with that trauma. Thomas Hubble wrote a book and called Healing Collective Trauma. And I'd like to read a quote from him, since I can't get the screen on, that actually says it. And he travels around the world. He's an international speaker. He offers workshops online all the time. If you're interested in collective trauma response, he's kind of my go-to energetic guy. And he writes about collective trauma. We are all born into a traumatized world. That is why we only know it this way. It seems normal to us at first, but many individualized traumatizations, therefore, do not come into conflict with the surrounding group and society, because it's embedded in thousands of years of traumatization, and also in the approaches to healing. So to summarize, this traumatization has become habituated in our culture and in our everyday life, so much so. And we saw it during a pandemic. We saw it during the war. Now we're seeing it now as we're facing this Roe versus Wade. We have this panic, we have this insecurity, we have this need to help. But what it's also done is it's really reduced, and we lose the higher functions of our humanity, like compassion, We lose our perspective, we lose creativity, we lose this rootedness. And we become, when we're unrooted, when we're ungrounded, we become this flow of however life wants to toss us around. And so when you understand it's around us in our collective humanity, trauma then becomes, to me, the number one thing in order for us to really live this envision. Embodiment has become a big term. So the Earthworker series recognizes everything I just said and creates an avenue to be an agent of change yourself through your own inner transformation. Now, it's not sexy, it's not fun, it's not playing with fairies and dragons and angels. It is real work. It's showing up and looking at what makes you feel uncomfortable, looking at the fear, deconstructing it, but so much grace comes in. I was literally crying in that song and during the quote, because if you only knew, and you do, that's why you're all meeting, the power and the grace and the support we all have in every single moment, there would be nothing to fear. But what creates that fear is our ingrained, imprinted, programmed, and conditioned trauma, which we all know is there. But doing something about it is another thing. And so that's what I'm offering to people as a way to do something about it. We meet, it's designed to be kind of like an artist palette. You can choose one, two, or all three for a very intensive movement through your energetic body anatomy. And I have all the recordings, so they're all available as an archive, which, you know, when I put my tech hat on, I'm going to create workshops for them. But right now, I'm just plugging going ahead. And I sit back and listen. I don't know month to month what the theme is going to be because, again, I'm not in charge. I'm not in the driver's seat. Literally about a couple of weeks before we start, like right now, I know what July is. But only a couple of weeks before, or maybe even a week or a couple of days before the month starts, do I know what my theme is. So every month we have a theme. And in past months, of course, during the pandemic, we worked on the immune system, and then we worked on the underlying root of the emotional issue that is tied not just to us, it's tied to our ancestors. It's tied to our karmic history. We come in with an incarnational body that says, I need to work through these things in the reality stream so that when I work through them and I can, you know, let go of that control of the ego and I can bring my self-awareness into it and start manifesting change through my own perspective. Changing perspective, you literally can change your life. But what we don't know is these underlying deeply embedded conditioned consciousness anchor in place. We can see that when we attend workshops, when we attend beautiful day-long events, and we just feel so shifted and changed. If within a day or two or even a week, we're kind of stuck back in our old routines again. I personally lived every bit of that as I got dumped into my own trauma to work it through day to day, week to week, month to month, and it's not fun. But if we don't do it, we're stuck in the same cycle of status quo. So recognizing that we have to energize our system, that it is unsustainable to bring in these higher vibrations into the world if we can't hold them in our own body. But our own body, what is it? It's weakened, it's depleted, it's entangled in deeply dimensional trauma. So to be an earth worker, in my understanding of that, and it's not for everybody, because to me, we're all individual spokes of the wheel. We come in and we provide our own unique expression of the divinity. So those who feel called to be an agent of change, if you want to go and march for eradication of war or more women's rights, to do it from a place of freedom, you become an uber manifester. But how do you find that freedom? How do you live that presence? How do you embody that expression of universal consciousness if you're still seeped in trauma response? And here's the other factor: the collective around you is like a big soup we're sitting in. So by the grace of the divine, and I work with mainly what I call source, but it's universal Shakti energy, which is universal energy of the Devi or the goddess form. But we also work with master healers like my good buddy Merlin and Christ consciousness, I take you to an interface between worlds. And by the way, this is what I did in past lives. I grew up as a Lutheran in Minneapolis, and so this horrifies all my relatives that I'm working with these beautiful universal energies and in an interface between worlds. But that's my lot in life, to just be my authentic self, despite what my family says, despite what any stigma says, and just to be the truth in unapologetic, again, authentic ways, and to help others do the same. And so these Earthworker series do that. So on Tuesday nights, we meet to work through your energetics, to really build up, again, theme by theme, month by month. We change it. We worked on the heart and lungs. We've worked on the spleen. And then Thursday is that energetic trauma therapy that I was talking about, that I've since renamed deep issue work, because people were getting a little bit confused about the different names. So I've labeled them what they do. Monday is advanced energetic maintenance. We go in and we work on those deep multidimensional roots in different parts of the body. Every month it's different. And you can join up for one just to sample it. You can join up for the series, because when that first Tuesday hits, and the next Tuesday builds on that, and the next Tuesday builds on that, because this deep conditioning didn't get there overnight. It's thousands and thousands of lifetimes. It takes time to unweave. And then Thursday again is deep issue work. Deep issue work follows this formula that evolved over time and showed me that in order to access these deep wounds of trauma, because they're pretty well traumatized, we approach it, and it's not me. Source has showed me this formula. Also, this formula is a part of Vortex Healing, which is the training that I have 14 years in. We approach it with a systematic formula that has proven to be very transformational, very powerful, very results oriented, if that's your goal. And we start out with the first thing: grounding. Grounding, grounding, grounding. As much as we love this higher vibrational raising consciousness, if we're not rooted in the earth, if we're not flowing with that rootedness, then it just kind of keeps flowing all through. That's why I call it earthwork. We're here to bring the light work down into the earth, be an embodied example of our truth. That's how the earth is going to change. As much, again, raising the vibration, we have to work on our karmic past, our intergenerational past. And so in order to do that, we need to be rooted, grounded, and then the earth bounces back and helps us. So it's a win-win-win. And so the first thing we do is work on our groundedness, work on becoming a template of that groundedness. Then we go into a beautiful space that Source showed me called a regulation pool. When you realize that trauma is our baseline, everyone has trauma. Whether you want to admit it or not, everyone has trauma. And so we create a regulation pool. It's like this big, beautiful pool of water that as you sink deeper into it, you sink down below the waters of the tumultuous storms of life, and you immerse yourself in this space of freedom. And we help regulate what's been out of sorts and what's been knocked, because we have planetary changes, moon changes, we have solar flares coming in. So your body's like a vibrational chaos. If you watch any kind of the January 6th or what's going on now with Roe versus Wade, your vibrations get really chaotic. And so we need to regulate that in order for your system to be much more calm and receptive. So then after that regulation phase, which again, I'm not in charge, takes anywhere from 5 to 10, sometimes 20 minutes, we then move into embrace. Embrace is like love. It's like being hugged by 1,000 different angels. Embrace understands that if trauma is your baseline, creates that nurturing, creates that space of love, of protection, of security, so that your body can start to relax. And that's when you can access the deeper fears. So we then go into a letting go phase where we tackle those in, again, a systematic way. Now, that's not enough. Integration comes in, because integration recognizes that we're interconnected to everyone and everything, And if we're connected to everyone and everything, and we just changed a few things, like we started out with this big puzzle piece that says "I am me." We just changed the shape of a few of them, maybe even took a few out. So integration says, let's take all our puzzle pieces and put them back together. And you all know when you're not integrated, you're out of sorts for days or weeks. I had a big movement once, took me a year and a half to integrate. We can really knock ourselves out if we're not careful. So integration recognizes that, and then we bring in reorientation. Reorientation says, okay, we have these old patterns that didn't serve us. Let's bring in some new ones that do, and make them part of our personality. And there's a multidimensional way to do that. And then finally, we come into this place of embodying our presence. Again, it's not enough just to understand intellectually and have this knowing. How do we live it out in the world? And that's our third series. We have an entire hour and a half series on Sunday night. So there's one tonight if you're interested and you want to join in, called Embodied Presence. And what comes in is whatever we need for the time. And speaking of whatever we need for the time, I'm noticing I want to make sure we have time to experience it. What happened is I don't pick topics. If I did, I would pick a whole different series of topics. And months and months ago, I thought we were heading toward the womb and the reproductive organs, and Source says, nope, that's the pelvis. And so what happened is Source picked before Roe versus Wade that the month of July, we're going to be working on the reproductive organs. Again, it's not for the meek and weak, because I'm going to be saying names like vagina and penis. It's not going to be fun or easy, but think of the conditioned consciousness that is being held there, not just from whatever you experience in this lifetime in regards to stigma, in regards to how you feel about your genitals, but think about how our ancestors living through the Victorian age, how that is imprinted within us. So, and now in our current society, so Source has assured me, the Divine Mothers have assured me that each and every time that we meet in a group healing, we're working on collective consciousness. Now, I don't always know how, but it's proven out many, many times. We're working on the collective consciousness, and it's showing us now. Otherwise, why would I be working on, the reproductive organs during this tumultuous time where this is exactly, yes, we can go march and we can stand up for our rights and we can shift things externally, but what more important to help with internal change? When you recognize that everything and everyone is interrelated and interconnected, and you're working on the deep conditioning in your genitals and reproductive organs, wow, now that's going to affect change in untold ways. So again, not sexy, not for the meek, not for the weak, but oh my gosh, the rewards, transformational. So it's enough, and you save all your questions because we're going to have a period of time where you can ask questions. Let's experience it, right? Enough of me talking, and it's time for us to experience it. So I've already created a group field. I want you to just feel down into your grounding cord. The grounding cord is at the base of your spine. It's your root chakra, and just gently breathe. First and foremost, we're in this interface between worlds. Those of you who are online are joined in the group field, as well as those of you in person. In this interface between worlds, you're being met by your own personal guide. Your own personal guide is wrapping their arms around you to make sure you get what you need and the way you need it, how you need it. Because this interface between worlds is also filled with all these divine beings who are dedicated and devoted to evolving humanity through, again, personal evolution. So your own personal guide is joining you. You're all invited to drop down into your grounding cord, exhaling down into the earth through the chair you're sitting on, or the couch, or the floor, all the way down through the layers of the earth. There you go. Through the layers of the strata of the water tables and rock and slate, to the very center of the earth, where we're going to connect to the heart of Gaia. To me, she feels like a crystalline ball, but however you experience it is exactly what it should be. And I want you to plug into her like a plug goes into a socket, or more importantly, like an umbilical cord. There you go. And as you do this, I'm going to create new grounding structures for you. So the grounding cord you currently have is aligned with the frequency of the day you were born. And of course, those frequencies have changed dramatically. So we're going to update your grounding cord to a high frequency one, which will help you more easily connect and be a conduit of flowing energy. There you go. Some of you just went boop, boop, boop. Beautiful. So now as you exhale down into earth, can you feel it's a little easier? When you connect to earth and that flow back to you, Earth Mother has such a beautiful energetic flow, very rich and nutritious and full of grounding and centering, this organic feeling of just being very in your body. So let's do a little check of that grounding, shall we? As we exhale down into earth this time, let's inhale earth back up into us. And we're going to do a little quick balancing. And as we bring it up, it's stopping right at your root chakra. And it's balancing out anything in your root chakra. Whew. It's out of sorts, out of whack, out of alignment. There we go. And now up into your sacral chakra. We're going to do the same. There's some emotional debris there, just balancing, aligning. And up into your third chakra. It's your control center. Your ego likes to park out here and bark orders at you, so we're just aligning, balancing. A little bit of resistance there. And up into your heart chakra. Beautiful. You guys have beautiful, open, flowing hearts. Now up into your throat chakra. And there's some blocks in your ability to be authentically expressive. So hold on. There we go. And now we're up into your brow, your third eye. And out your crown. Out your crown. And we're balancing out your left and right, your masculine and feminine, your heart coherence. And just creating more stability, more of a template for this grounded flow to become your normal. And the reason we don't like grounding, because all of our survival fear is down in those lower chakras. So like a child learning a new instrument, we have to learn how to be an earthworker, how to be grounded as an earthworker, to let this beautiful divine light that you keep bringing in, that the earth keeps bringing in, to be a conduit, to be a lighthouse, but deeply rooted and grounded. And the earth herself carries a lot of karma, so it's not really fun necessarily to ground and balance. Beautiful. So now we're just going to spend the next few minutes going into that place, divine love. Your founder keeps showing me these beautiful butterflies. And so we're going to bring in a sense of love, of you that has worked through every single issue. So when you recognize your dimensional, all possibilities exist, and we can bring them in as templates. It doesn't mean we automatically become that, but we like insert a new program into us that says, okay, this is something we can strive for. So let's bring in the you that has worked through all your issues, all your deepest issues, and has come to this beautiful place of flowing grace and love. The question for you in introspection is, what would be feel like to be free of that fear? Source provides you the opportunity at every moment, every day. And it is up to us not to dream it, not to just know it, to live it and embody it. So this love pouring in now like beautiful white flower falling on your head, or a soft mist of snowflakes that just melt, these sacred geometric figures of light and love just melt into your skin, and each one carrying this presence of your embodied divinity, rooted, grounded, flowing in that framework we just created for you. So now this love that comes in is like a fountain. It's a toroidal field that looks like two circles bisecting you at the center. But it's dimensional, so it's all around you, and it interfaces with all your loved ones. It interfaces with your homes, your workplaces, your pets, your plants. It interfaces with the entire world. There's something called morphogenetic fields that Rupert Sheldrake talks about. Fascinating, fascinating study. Morphogenetic fields prove that we're all interconnected, and that if we vibrate this higher presence and essence of our grace-filled divinity, it immediately helps others to do so, to access it much easier. So we're sending it out to the collective now, like little droplets of water, or like little seeds. And we're asking it to go to anyone who is suffering with challenge, suffering with pain, especially supporting any of those intentions you said earlier that may resonate. These droplets, these seeds, these sparks, blossoming into this love, again fueled by divine grace. Take a moment now and think of your intention, and we're just going to amplify it now. Amplify it in this grace of love. Singing a Sanskrit mantra, which literally means a prayer to lead us from untruth to truth, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May there be peace. And in this peace, may I be a conduit in whatever way, shape, or form I can. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Nirtyorma Hantram Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sri Kubiyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is done, it is complete, and so it is. Lifting you up and out of this glorious space of grace. It is an honor to be of service. Thank you for inviting me here today. Thank you for letting me share. Thank you for allowing me to be a facilitator for your blossoming grace. Thank you.